Let's get to our main topic then, Bazel 7.2. There's a lot of good stuff in here that folks should be excited about. Here's the release, the process ticket. I think if you find a bug in 7.2, this is the place to come and report it. Is that right?
Sort of. You should file a normal issue, and then most likely someone will come in and tag it. There's like a chat command you can do that then ends up creating a new issue they have issues specific to release blockers. Sometimes you can report stuff here, but I think the preferred process is you file as a separate issue.
Okay, makes sense. And so same as last time, we've got this nice giant list of commits.
Lots of them this time.
Yes, lots of commits. So it says at the top we have 151 commits and 764 files changed. So do you want to tell us about each and every one of them?
I could probably do that, more towards when 8.0 is actually being released if I end up doing another blog post. But I have a couple here that I think are important to talk about. The first was, we mentioned the deadlocks are fixed. So if you're experiencing those, jump on the release candidate and hopefully those are resolved for you. A feature that's made it in, and it's been kind of in a PR form for a while. Ed opened it a long time ago, was the remote output service. They talked about it at the last BazelCon, and it has made it into 7.2. The big thing for that is that it will allow you to run like a sidecar daemon that uses Fuse or NFS, to kind of virtualize your like remote cache or remote execution, and makes it so instead of using build without the bytes, like nothing is ever downloaded, and then when you try to access the file, it just fetches it from the remote cache. So you don't have to know ahead of time like what you're going to want to have on disk at the end of the build. You'll just try to access it.
Yeah, internally at Google, they had this feature forever. I remember it was like 2012. Milos Vesta was the TL for this system called ObjFS. And at Google, they love to write custom Fuse file systems and then roll it out like to everybody's corporate machines. Like I feel like they probably even have kernel level access to what's running in there. But yeah, exactly. It looked as if all of Bazel out is present, even though you didn't download any of it, which is great. Yeah, that's a great middle ground. I remember Ed's feature has been out for, it was like a year or more that he had that PR up, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 years. I remember it was a patch against 5.1 or something like that to begin with.
And if I remember correctly, I think the folks at Marathon did a lot of work to then pick it up and get it across the finish line. So big thanks to them.
And then Chi internally at Google helped as well to adjust it a little bit more, because I think they're trying to align it with the Google 3 implementation as well.
Yeah, that's great. So thanks to all those folks. So let's talk about Bislamod a little bit. That's been a little bit of a rough landing. I know that we've recommended most people turn off the module.bazel.lock file, or at least not check it in. What's the update there?
Yeah, so thanks to Fabian, there's a new format for the lock file that is much more friendly to Git merging. It's very similar to the Go lock file format, where I think it's like basically append only unless you want to refresh it. So I think after this, we'll finally be able to recommend people not ignore it and start checking it in.
Right. So the merge conflicts will be easier to resolve manually. Is there also sort of a feature where Bazel itself can repair a merge conflict?
I haven't looked enough into that to know. I know there's a new command for refresh as well. So.
Yeah, my understanding was that, so in Git, you can specify a custom merge driver, which is a little fancy. It requires everybody in the repo to add a setting to their local Git config. And that merge driver can then find merge conflict regions and repair them automatically.
I remember that. Yep.
But I think that's not out yet.
Yeah, there's work on that again.
Okay. Yeah, and then the other reason that people had to Git ignore the lock file. Oh no, sorry, different topic. module.bazel file gets really huge. So I think that's also been improved upon.
Yeah, there's this new include directive that allows you to kind of split it up, very similar to like Workspace, where you could load in BZL files. So yes, you're now finally able to split that up, which is really good for repos that have code ownership over different dependencies, and you want to lock those to specific files.
Yep, that's great. The next one that I'm interested in is the modify execution info flag, because Aspect has a helper library, Bazel lib, and we've often recommended that users do things like tell the tar action to run non-remote or something. But as soon as you add that flag, then it clobbered any earlier instances of that flag, which seemed completely crazy. I know you filed this issue forever ago.
Yeah, way back in 4.0. So.
So yeah, what's the update there? Is that fixed now?
Yeah, there's a new incompatible flag that you can flip that makes it so it's additive. So yes. I mean, it's technically a break and change. So, people are relying on it. But I do believe with 8 that can be flipped. So, people can get over it.
Okay. So now there's 701 flags.
Yep.
Is the joke. Okay. Well, at least it's fixable. So I suppose we should let everyone know, maybe in the show notes, what the incompatible flag is that you ought to flip so that you stop having the modify execution info foot gun in your build. Oh, yes, I see. Of course, it's breaking because now all of your modify execution infos will be honored where they weren't before.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's valid. Let's see, which one do you want to talk about next? I know we have a few other topics here.
Yeah. So maybe we talk about the one that almost made it and hopefully is coming soon.
Yeah.
So there's been a long how old is this? This one's even longer than any of the other feature requests. It's ancient for the disk cache that Bazel supports to have garbage collection. So Diego is working on finally enabling that for us, and it was slated for 7.2. It just missed the cut though, so we're hoping that 7.3 is when we finally have garbage collection for disk cache. But also, it seems like we're going to be getting garbage collection for the repository cache and the install base as well. So there's a lot of companies deal with this issue for like local developers where they use Bazel and they don't want to tell people to run Bazel clean because that's an anti-pattern. Like, you should just be able to build, but it just never cleans up after itself. There's just so many blobs that end up everywhere on your disk, and so these garbage collection features are going to be a big improvement for people. They can get rid of their little scripts so they go, oh, if you're under 10 gigabytes of disk space, let's clean out our Bazel caches.
Yeah, and I've seen there's a lot of tricky concurrency issues to deal with here, so it requires a lot of care. I think also kind of interesting, like, why would these bugs be in Bazel if Google's been using it since 2007 or something? And I think the answer there is that they've had the remote execution and remote cache wired up for local developer builds forever-ish, because they only allow developers to work on Linux, essentially. So they have a single platform, which makes it easier to share the cache hits. They have a closet in each office, essentially, that has a local replica of the remote cache to make it incredibly high bandwidth for those to be on developers' machines. And so they simply never had a use for the disk cache or some of these other caches internally at Google. And so we only see them when we get it out to the Bazel community.
Yep. Another one is, it's just a small little change, but I think it's on a theme that I think we really need to improve on with Bazel. So Fabian put in a change that added a did you mean this flag for unknown, or this command, or this flag? I forget which one it is, for unknown flags. I think it's flag. And this improves the UX around using Bazel, and I think we have a long way to go there. I think it's not kind of hard. It's really hard for new people to use Bazel, especially when they encounter errors. So anything we can do to help around explaining errors, compile errors, where to go, what to change, how to modify star alert, things in that vein are good.
Yeah, I just this week I pointed one of my coworkers to an issue where Bazel can suggest maybe you meant Java library, but it doesn't know how to say maybe you meant Swift library because one of them's built in and the other one's not.
Yeah. Once all the rules are out, I think out of Bazel core, I think we'll have hooks to be able to make those changes, or sadly we'll lose that for a time being.
Yeah. Well, for a long time that was true for flags like test lang filters only supported built-in langs, but that one's already been fixed.
Nice.
So yeah, there's just a long pile of those things to burn through.
Yeah, and then I just had one more that I kind of wanted to do a call out for. So Pedro at Google has been working on speeding up sandboxing, in particular for Mac OS, and some of his changes have landed in 7.2 as well, in particular around sandbox reuse. There's a flag you can set to have the sandboxes reused.
Yeah, my understanding there is that Mac OS just doesn't have the same performance for the primitives that are used for sandboxing that Linux does. And also scary, I remember last BazelCon, someone pointed out that Apple is planning to deprecate the primitive that is currently used for the Mac OS sandbox. Do you know what's going on with that?
So it's been deprecated for a couple of years, but I wouldn't be too worried about it because Swift Package Manager it uses the same sandboxing now. So we'll see when there's a replacement for it because Swift Package Manager is open source. So as soon as they have to migrate to something else, we'll be able to as well. So I
see.
I think
I didn't realize Swift Package Manager is maintained by Apple, and so they have to do both.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that's a relief. If Apple themselves depend on it, then yeah, they can't break us at the drop of a hat.
Yep.
It'd be exciting to have the sandbox be faster. I have to recommend for some of our clients that they just turn off sandboxing, right? Use strategy local or strategy standalone. I think local is preferred, right?
Yeah, most iOS development doesn't run with sandboxing, at least for local dev. Like CI, you can enable it, but no, it's way too slow for local development.
Yeah.